Okay, so this is a piece of Aspen. Aspen has a rating of 350. Now, according to the scale, that makes it softer than basswood. But the real test comes into play when you actually try to carve it and you get the feel of it. And does it really feel softer than basswood or not? So let me just remove a few chips here for you and you'll see how it carves. Now this you can see is also a tight grained wood and it's closed pore. All right, so tight grain and closed pore, so we're off to a good start. Here's some straight with the grain cuts. Feels pretty similar to basswood. The inside of the chips are nice and glassy smooth, and we'd expect that from this wood because it's a nice closed pore wood. I'm going to make this cut with the grain by rolling my knife over. So this piece of Aspen, it carves really nicely. It feels, if not the same as basswood, maybe a little bit harder. And you'll know that just from one tree to another, the hardness can vary quite a bit. So when we say that Aspen is 350, you know, that's a ballpark figure because it'll vary from one growth to the next. Also in the assorted pack is white pine. Okay, white pine has a Janka rating of 480. All right, very closed pore and fairly tight grain. You can see it's got a little bit more pronounced streaks in it than you'll find in basswood or aspen. White pine is a nice carving wood, and relief carvers and others will often carve a white pine piece. Now let's look at a piece of butternut. Okay, butternut has a Janka scale rating of 490. Very close to the white pine we just carved. You can see the pores on this wood. So this is an open pored wood. All right, it's not quite as tight as your white pine, aspen, basswood. So a little more open, but still soft. And this is a very common carving wood. And also you should know it's getting a little more rare these days. I even think the state of Minnesota has declared that butternut as an endangered tree, I believe. I think some of it is because of insect problems. So you'll pay more for it when you do find it. Because of the grain, the more pronounced grain in butternut, your carving won't stand out quite as much. Now in the screen image that you're looking at, you look at it and say, wow, it really stands out a lot. But remember, this is a very close-up shot that you're seeing. And once you put this on, say, a large item, like a quilt rack that I carved once from butternut, the carving can tend to disappear a little more into the background just because of the grain of the wood itself. All right, here's a piece straight from the lumber yard. And I'm not 100% sure what it is. I think it's Ponderosa Pine. Ponderosa Pine is a very common wood at the home centers for construction material, 2x, 1x, which is this piece. Was a 1x4, I think. And often I believe that's the case, but I think it can vary. Sometimes it might be Douglas fir, sometimes it might be Ponderosa Pine. So I don't know. All I know is it's pretty hard. Now they list Ponderosa Pine at $460. Now this is not $460 if butternut is $490. I can tell you that. All right, it's definitely not softer than butternut. With Douglas fir being at $620, maybe it is Douglas fir, because I know it's harder than butternut, that's for sure. All right, here's a piece of black walnut. Black walnut has a Janka rating of 1010, compared to a 410 basswood. We've really jumped up the scale with this piece of black walnut. You can see the size of these chips, okay? My blade is 1 inch long. So you're looking at, you know, a little less than 3/8 of an inch for these cuts. They're not very large, and you can be thankful for that when you try to carve this black walnut, because it is pretty hard.